The Club Championship Show on OTB Sports in partnership with AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. Hashtag the toughest.
Welcome along to episode 2 of the Club Championship here on AIB, or here on OTB, even brought to you by AIB. Lots to look forward to this week. Ballyhale Shamrocks a little bit understated in beginning their defence of their Leinster crown. The reigning All-Ireland champions coming through by 6 points against Mount Leinster Rangers. They'll make the trip to St Rynas this coming Sunday. We'll be looking forward to that match and also the other provincial semi-finals which take place in hurling this weekend. Kilcoo, very impressive at the start of their Ulster Championship defence, as was picked out by Cara O'Callaghan on the show last week. They were really good in qualifying for the semi-finals in Ulster and have to be considered one of the major contenders to lift the All-Ireland club football title. We'll be looking forward to the semi-finals of the AIB All-Ireland Camogie as well from the 2020 season, refixed for this year. We'll be talking to Tina Bradley from Slaughtneil, who scored a goal and 6 points as they won their 5th Ulster title in a row last week, and they will go up against Owlert the Bala in the semi-finals of the Camogie this weekend. Delighted to say, to look at what's a pretty packed 40 minutes ahead, we are joined by Tommy Rooney and Donnchadh Boyle, two Meath men with us. Lads, how are you getting on?
Very well.
Well, what's the crack?
Hey, Tommy.
Tommy. Most importantly, Will,
go on.
Two Meath Hillmen.
I know, yeah. I didn't want to localise it too much here, but two clubmen alongside each other.
Two clubmen, yeah.
I'm hoping you can disagree with each other a lot over the picks that we have over the next few minutes.
There'll be no problem.
Tommy, if I can ask you, you were obviously watching Kilcoo last week. We were talking to Cara O'Callaghan and he was saying that maybe they were being a little bit underplayed going into the Ulster Championship. They were on TV on Saturday. I was watching the match here in the office. They were really good.
Yeah. Cara talked up Kilcoo a lot last week, and rightly so. It can be forgotten how far they got in 2019 and how close they ran Cara Finn. They have a couple of players there that are geniuses. Like Conor Laverty at club level is sensational. Obviously at county level and as a manager now, he's shown his worth as a manager at under 20 level with Down. But like the way he just ran that game the last day was so impressive against Rammer. Rammer were decent, but like Kilcoo just looked a step above them at the weekend. I don't know if you saw that game at the weekend, but Kilcoo have been one of the standard bearers in Ulster football obviously over the last little while.
Yeah, they have, and you referenced that game against Cara Finn, and was it, off the top of my head, was it 9 minutes injury time? I think there was a lot of controversy around it, but the fact that it brought Cara Finn, who, like, you know, at one stage were operating on a level, certainly that I'm doing this about 14, 15 years, I've never seen a club team get to the level that they got to. I've covered them in a few different games, and some of the games they were playing and the things they were doing. I remember watching them against St Bridges, I think, in Carrick on Shannon one year, maybe a Connacht club final, and coming away from the game thinking, like, you know, they would do quite well probably in Division 4 or even maybe Division 3 of the National League. Like, that's how well they were moving at one stage. So for Kilcoo to get to that level and to be as close as they were, and you know, that speaks volumes of where they are, and I don't think there's any doubt that, you know, they'll take an awful lot of stopping in this championship. You know, the Rammer are, I suppose, Cavan champions, haven't got a brilliant record, but a Rammer won a Cavan title a few years ago with a very young team, and I think they went on and won the under-21 maybe the following week and won it quite well, and they were thought they were going to pick up a few Cavan titles over the next few years. Didn't really happen for them until this year, but Kilcoo are just next level up. I think the club teams operating at the top level of the thing now are, you know, it is a project to get that far. You know, it's a few years to get to the level, the Kilcoos, the Cara Finns, you know, any of the top club sides, Ballygunner, who we'll talk about later on, like, they're on it. It's a long-term project these boys are at, and I think Kilcoo are among them.
Yeah, Tommy's going to be going along to watch Cara Finn's Conquerors Montbellew this weekend against Pádraig Pearses. It'll be our feature updates game on Off the Ball on Saturday. Donnchadh, you were in Portlaoise on Sunday. Did you get to see Port Arlington and Lomans?
Yes, I did. It was the second time in a couple of weeks, actually, because I covered their Laois final as well, and I was quite taken with their style of football. They're very everything they do is very crisp and fast and very accurate, and we saw that in the first maybe 12 minutes. I think they'd won 6 on the board at that stage, and maybe 5 of their starting forwards had scored, and Lomans, who are a very, very experienced, accomplished team, could not lay a glove on them, and they were brilliant. And it was a sort of, they carried on from where they left on in the Laois final, where they were just way ahead of Portlaoise. I had a little look at them after the Laois final just to see what their path was like and what sort of price they were. I think they were 7-1 going into that game for Leinster. And you know, they have a tricky route now. It's obviously Crokes now, and I think it's you could be looking at maybe Naas in the final, depending how that the other game goes. But you know, Port Arlington have, you know, they have a couple of Colin Murphy who's with Laois, and he's obviously a very good player. But they have loads of good. Jake Foster, left-footed player, plays in the corner. Not the biggest man, but quite accurate when he gets a shot away. They have a lovely centre forward called Ronan Coffey, very balanced, stylish player. So yeah, they have loads of talent. The one thing you would say about looking at them from the Lomans game is that after the initial 10, 12, 15 minutes where they blew Lomans away, Lomans kind of got on top of them physically, and as the manager Matt Murphy said afterwards, they struggled a little bit with that. They had to sort of like reorganise themselves, and half-time came at a really good time for them when there was still a goal up. So you know, that might be, as we go deeper and deeper into winter, that might be something they'll have to figure out on the hoof now to deal with these big teams putting physical pressure on them and not letting them play this lovely flow and running football that they like to play. So, but in fairness to them, they went a point behind after the 38 minutes. First time they lost the lead in the game, and they still recovered to dig it out. Like, you know, there was loads of opportunities for them to go away in that game. You know, the momentum was against them. You know, when Lomans went a point up, you're thinking, right, it really only looked like one winner, and still dug it out, scored the last 2 points of the game, and found a way to get it done. So very impressed with them, very impressed with their style, and you know, and as I say, the way they sort of found a way to win the game, even though it wasn't necessarily the kind of game that they would like to play themselves, as Martin Murphy said afterwards. But yeah, I think they'll have a proper chance this weekend. Or next time out against it's Crokes, isn't it? So
yeah,
but yeah, a very, very an awful lot of nice footballers, and they all know their jobs exactly. So they're going to take a lot of stopping too. I like them. One of the reasons I went back to see them after the Laois final was because I thought they played some lovely football, and that first 12 minutes, like, that's probably as good as you will see from any team that period of football over the course of this club championship, I'd say.
Yeah, something quite unique actually about those Leinster semi-finals on Saturday week, both at Croke Park as a doubleheader. So Chemaliers against Naas will be the first game of a doubleheader, followed by Port Arlington against Kilmacud Crokes. Kilmacud Crokes involved in the hurling this weekend, which we'll take a look forward to now. Tommy, I want to give you a first shout on Ballygunner, because you went to watch them a couple of weeks ago. So impressive against Ballya. Probably a step up in standard for them this Sunday afternoon. It's on the TV as well. Munster Club Championship semi-final. Ballygunner up against Lockmore Castleiney. This should be a really good game, Tommy.
100% will. Donnchadh was at the Ballygunner game as well, so you might get his thoughts too, but I just couldn't get by how sharp Ballygunner looked the last day. And speaking to Tony Kelly afterwards, it was evident, as I mentioned last week, that perhaps Ballya hadn't come up against something like that in Clare before that. So this will be a bigger test for Ballygunner. We obviously saw Lockmore Castleiney's incredible run come to a bit of a halt in the football at the weekend. Éire Óg bet them after extra time. I was just thinking of John McGrath again. Like, he scored the equaliser to make it 9 apiece to bring it to extra time. But Éire Óg scored 2 brilliant goals at the start of the second half. And we all know in football or hurling, goals in extra time, they're so hard to claw back. So that was Lockmore knocked out of the football. They definitely are going to pose a much tougher test for Ballygunner this weekend. But they were awesome, Donnchadh, down in Ennis 2 weeks ago, weren't they?
Yeah, they're another team I've seen quite a bit of, actually. I did the Waterford final last year. I think I was one of maybe 20 people who were at it because of all the regulations and stuff that were in place at the time, but they're absolutely brilliant. And just before I come on, like, I look back at my match report from the game last year. They had done 7 in a row. They've since made it 8. The record in Waterford, this is just to outline how they're actually a generational team. The record in Waterford is 9. Last year as well, their minors had won 4 in a row, and they're on the 14s that won the county title by a cricket score apparently that same day, according to the match report I was reading. So, like, they're 43 games unbeaten now in Waterford, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier on about this being a project. Like, they picked up a Munster Club title a couple of years ago, but like, I get the impression these fellas have their eyes on much bigger prizes as well. Like, when they went and played Ballya, this is kind of lost, and because they were so brilliant, but they hadn't played in 56 days. Because the Waterford season was split, they went hurling first and then football. So those lads hadn't played a competitive match in 56 days. And in the county final, Desi Hutchinson had got 1-9 for play. He was brilliant. But he actually didn't score then against Ballyea. But they still
Barry Coote made a couple of brilliant saves against him. He could have scored 2 goals, couldn't he?
Yeah, but I suppose the fact that maybe he didn't have a great day and they were still comfortable winners, I think says an awful lot about them. So a lot more stories, great. I think everyone who follows clubs or is into the club scene, like they have a soft spot for Loughmore. Like what they've done is incredible, really. And I suppose a lot of people like to see them keep winning. But you wonder too, like about apart from the physical toll, you wonder about the mental toll of just like, winning 2 big things and probably not getting a proper run at celebrations. There's been no breather for them at all. And some people make the case that it's momentum. At some stage, I think that has to turn against you. If you just play every week. So they've only had a couple of days to deal with a first defeat since I think the middle of July as a club. And now they're going straight into a team like Ballygunner who, they're ticking all the boxes, and I think they'll come on and awful lot in that Ballyea game. That the fact that they got a competitive match in, so I think Ballygunner are odds on. I think for Munster, and I can see why. And from what I've seen, both in last year's county final and against Ballyea, there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, extra time not ideal for Loughmore Castleiney with all the workload there's been in recent weeks as well. The other semi-finals, an interesting one, lads. Kilmarnock won the Munster title back in 2014. Some of those players are still around. And then they're going up against the Middleton team who haven't won Munster since 1987, and Cork teams have had a very patchy record in the province in recent years as well, Donnchadh.
Yeah, and it's a strange one. Like, I suppose you'd presume that the Cork teams would be very strong when it comes to it, but the club scene doesn't always follow county scene. Like there's loads of examples of that, maybe where they go back to the 90s and Éire Óg and Carlow were very strong, but maybe the Carlow team weren't very strong. There's loads of contradictions sometimes in that, and Cork would be one of them. It's kind of a hard one. You mentioned maybe that experience that Kilmarnock have will stand to them on the day, but I was doing a bit with John Myler yesterday, and he's involved with Kilmiley, who are in the intermediate club, and I was just talking about hurling this time of year and what it means, and he just it's very hard. It's great to be playing this time of year, but it's very hard to predict. It's a little bit of a lottery, and I think the more you see games at this time of year, there's so many things at play. How does a team react to winning their county title? Like, are they on some level satisfied with that, or have they just not recovered in time, or have they, or are there a team that have won a few county titles and now all of a sudden have their eyes on much bigger things? There's so much psychology involved in it too, because it's when you start training at the beginning of the year, you're only training for one thing, and then you have to readjust your focus completely. So I think you see an awful lot of that in club games, and mindset and ability to refocus, I think, is huge for these teams.
Yeah, when it comes to the 2 games in the Leinster Club hurling, weddings factor into both of these. TJ Reid said to us on Off the Ball after the game on Saturday he probably would have been murdered for the fact that they had to move around the game because of his wedding if they had lost against Mount Leinster. I don't think they ran into any real trouble. Like, they won by 22 points to 16 in the end. They'll be expected to overcome St. Rynas this coming Sunday. Rynas have got quite a poor record even coming out of Offaly in recent years. They didn't get to play in the championship last year because we had no provincial and All-Ireland Club Championship, but they've run off 3 in a row in Offaly for the first time since the 1970s. They're hoping to win Leinster for the first time since the mid-90s, but I think a lot of their players were saying afterwards a very difficult draw to get Ballyhale Shamrocks, the reigning All-Ireland champions, in the first round, albeit a semi-final. The other one has a wedding side to it as well, and Tommy and I were talking about this last week. It was that Willie Dunphy, star forward for Clough-Ballacolla, got married just last Friday to Niamh Guy, who was very quick to inform me after she got messages after the show that she's now back in with the Meath hurling squad for this year. She's gone back a couple of weeks earlier because we were talking about a honeymoon that they were due to have. We thought Willie Dunphy might miss their game against Kilmacud this weekend. They cancelled the honeymoon, Tommy Rooney, so that he could play this weekend. Now that's commitment.
I don't know, Donnchadh, like, would you ever do something like that if Meath had a championship game coming up?
Absolutely. No, thankfully don't have to make any of those decisions. So but no, like, look, it's inevitable. I know. I think TJ had to cancel it before, hadn't he? That and everything, you had to cancel it before. But these sort of things, and the fact that it runs so close to Christmas now. Remember that was it 2 years ago? I remember the All-Ireland Club semi-finals. It was Ballyhale and Slaughtneil, I think, in Newry. I think it was the first weekend of January, and Ballyhale won that day, but we're all just talking about how weird Christmas was on the back of it. Might have trained Stevens' day or maybe the day afterwards, and the calendar debate goes on and on and on, and there is no perfect answer, but it is a tricky one for club players that, if they're at that level of competition, and then Christmas comes around in the middle of it, and you kind of, what do you do with it, or do you just keep going, or do you give yourself a few days off? And it's a very weird one. It's a very weird one at this time of year, but look, I'd say most people would be saying it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, well, congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Dunphy after their wedding last Friday. So he'll have time, and all the players who were at the wedding, to get ready for Clough-Balcalla, looking to win their second ever provincial game, having won against Rapparees in the last round. They take on Kilmacud Crokes this Saturday. It's on TV as well. 6:15 throw in for that one in Portlaoise, and that one should be a cracker. Both teams enjoyed comfortable wins in the quarterfinals. Kilmacud winning by 19 points against Raharney, and don't quite have the dual problem that some of the other clubs have with the crossover players as well. Donnchadh, thanks a million for joining us on the show.
Thanks very much, lads.
Tommy, we'll have a look at the results in a bit more detail and some of the fallout from some of the football games from last weekend too. Let's give viewers and listeners a run through what happened last weekend. So here's the Ulster Football Championship quarter-final results from the weekend just gone by. Glen, very impressive after winning their Derry Crown, beating Scottstown by 118 to 12 points. Two games went all the way to extra time, and Dromore of Tyrone, after winning Tyrone the last three times they've gone out in the first round of Ulster Championship, beaten by Derry Gonley Harps of Fermanagh 116 to 13 points. We mentioned Kilcoo, very impressive, running up 3 goals and 13 points in beating Rammer United of Cavan 313 to 18. And the other game went extra time, which was Clonairon overcoming Cregan after extra time by 2 goals and 14 points to 17 points. Be a disappointment for Dromore there again, Tommy. We were looking forward to this with Cara last week, but Tyrone teams haven't gone all that deep into the Ulster Championship in recent years, and that's a club team now who 3 times in a row have come out and went out in the first round.
Yeah, 100%. And it's kind of funny, as Donnchadh was mentioning, it doesn't always mirror the county setup. And I don't know, Will, could it be something to do with how fierce the Tyrone Club Championship it is, like how difficult it is to win it, that you have to put so much effort into that once you kind of win that, not that the foot comes off the gas a little bit, but like it's the holy grail. Like, it's such a big deal to win it that maybe the provincial isn't as important unless you win a couple in a row, but like in Ulster, like Derry Gonley, like they've been stalwarts in Fermanagh for a number of years now. I think it's 6 out of the last 7 that we were saying last week. Yeah. So like that's the type of team there that are looking to push on and do something different now. You mentioned Clonairon's result there. I don't know whether you saw Tiernan Kelly's late free to equalise it out from the wing. It was an unbelievable free.
Yeah.
Oh, it was class. They come back from the dead, I suppose, and they've had a brilliant story so far this year. So they're up against them in the semi-finals, and then we've got Glen and Kilcoo. We mentioned Kilcoo earlier, but Glen looked really good against Scottstown, and I was interested watching this one. I wanted to know whether Glen would back up the little bit of hype that we've heard about them since they strolled through the Derry Championship. They look very, very good. Kieran McFall at 6. Connor Glass in midfield. Glass kicked a brilliant point. Did you see the mark?
I saw the mark, and I saw his argument around the mark. Look, there's a lot of footballers who are backing Glass on this, that if you can get up that high, you use your knee to protect yourself while you're going up against an opponent. You can use your knee for leverage on their shoulders or maybe the small of their back if you can get up that high. And I think it's a great skill, the high field. And look, I think it's as long as you don't come through your opponent with the knee, if you're just using your opponent to propel yourself forward, there's a lot to be said that the catch should be allowed.
Well, I think what I loved about it was that Glass was coming out on Twitter in between an Ulster club provincial quarter-final, semi-final, and making the case for himself that it's right. I think there was an image shared of Caolan Mooney before doing something similar. He obviously played in the AFL too. Just to give a shout out to a club mate of myself and Donnchadh, because it's Keith Ginnity. Keith Ginnity is still playing intermediate championship football for us last year. He's in his 40s. I'm going to say I'm going to say 6 foot in the button. But Keith played midfield for us for years, and my God, the trick that he had was to hip a fella in the air. He got away with it every time. So maybe Conor Glass should try the hip rather than the knee. But Keith would nail you with the hip while you were mid-air, and you wouldn't be able to get the ball ahead of him.
Can we just point out, none of this is strictly legal. Knee or hip is kind of we're looking at grey matter here when it comes to propelling yourself off an opponent to go up and catch the ball. But it's a catch well worth watching. Like, the airtime he gets is just absolutely remarkable. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the results then from the weekend just gone by. Leinster football quarterfinals. Mentioned with Donnchadh, probably game of the weekend in Leinster was Port Arlington's win against St. Lomans, 114 to 112. Port scoring 1-6 of that total in the first 7 minutes. The second time in a row they scored 1-6 and 7. They did so in the Laois final as well.
Can I just say as well?
Go on,
Can
Tom.
I just say as well? at 2:10 on Sunday, I got the biggest "I told you so" text from Will O'Callaghan. What did he say? 2:10. I had you warned. Port Ireton 1-6. And then obviously Lomond said that we'd come back. But you said that they were the perfect counter-attacking team. So well done, Will. That was a good shout last week.
Well, they're the perfect counter-attacking team until they go 25 minutes without getting a score. And that becomes a problem. But I think if anyone is watching Port Ireton's story, I thought it was interesting that they were able to come back and win the game after slipping behind against Lomond's. And for St. Lomond's, unfortunately for them, they weren't able to exercise some of the demons of the last time they went to Portlaoise, which is the 2017 final when they lost out against Moorfield. Elsewhere in Leinster at the weekend, Chevaliers of Wexford overcoming Naomh Martin by 2-6 to 1-7. They go on to play Naas, who are out of Kildare for the first time in 3 decades. Naas have scored 7 goals in 2 games, which is something well worth watching out for. Since Owen Doyle has taken over there as player manager, they're banging in goals. They beat Blessington by 4 goals and 11 points to 1 goal and 7, and 6 points for Paul Mannion in Kilmacud Croke's victory against Wolf Tones, 113 to 1 goal and 9. So that sets up 2 semi-finals, Naas Chevaliers and Port Ireton against Kilmacud Croke Park in a couple of weeks' time. In the Munster football quarter-finals from the weekend just gone by, Newcastle West holding on to beat the Nair in the end by 8 points to 6, and 2 goals in extra time for Éire Óg of Clare as they overcome Loughmore Castellini, the dual champions of Tipperary, after extra time. Connacht football semi-final, we know that Knockmore are the first team into the final, beating Tour Strand by 10 points to 8, and we'll talk about the other semi-final which Tom will be at a little bit later on. We had the last 2 county finals of the year as well. The Kerry Senior Football final, Austin Stacks overcoming Cairn O'Rahilligs in an all-Tralee final by 13 points to 10. It's now a 13 title there for Stacks, coming through for the first time since 2013-14 season. And the Galway Senior Hurling final was dominated by Conor Cooney, who I'm going to put down for a performance of the weekend, Tommy, because he scored 11 points in that Galway Championship final. In all, in Galway, he scored 2 goals and 67 points across the championship, which is remarkable. Man of the match in back-to-back finals. He has captained them to 4 county titles in a row, and in the 6 county finals he's played in, Tommy, he's been man of the match in 4 of them.
That's unbelievable going from Conor Cooney. That's sensational. So have I got an argument against you? I thought Vicky Wall was exceptional for Dunboyne at the weekend. She didn't get the goals.
Exceptional year, whatever about exceptional game. Bloody hell.
Unbelievable. Like, it's remarkable. And when I watched it back afterwards, Wall hadn't scored a goal, and I was thinking, do you know what, maybe it wasn't the Emma Wall or the Emma Duggan and Vicky Wall show this weekend, but like the two of them were involved in both goals. But Vicky Wall, like, she scored a point from the throw-in at the top and the throw-in at the start of the second half, and that was a big win for Dunboyne against Foxrock Cabinteely, one of the stories of the year so far. But yeah, Conor Cooney, that is just sensational performances at that level. That's John McGrath-esque, you could say.
Yeah, no, absolutely remarkable. Look, congratulations to Dunboyne as well, breaking new ground. You're having, again, you talk about a team who've got a plan. Dunboyne have come up through the ranks, having already won a Leinster Intermediate, now Leinster Senior Champions after that win against Foxrock Cabinteely last week. Let's just take a bit of reaction then from the Galway hurling final from last week. These are the final stages of the game as called by Cyril Farrell and Sean Walsh, and there's also a bit of Conor Cooney talking about their hopes of winning the All-Ireland St Thomas's after the game.
It's all over. It's the county champions of St Thomas's that have won their 4th county title in a row. 20 points for St Thomas's, 17 points for Clarenbridge. In the end, their record is unbelievable. In their 6th county final in 10 years, they've won their 6th county championship. Conor Cooney will captain the team for the 4th time to a county championship win. The men of Peterswell, Castledaly and Kilcrease will win. The man of the match selection, Cyril?
Now, there's a lot of men of the match. You had Shane Cooney, you had David Buck, these guys, you had Evan Niall on the other side, but like, to me, and Fincher Buck, but to me, you have to say Conor Cooney again as captain. Like, you know, what did he get? He had, say, 5 from play, 6 from frees. That's 11 altogether, like, you know. And there's a general players, and anything that was any mistake that Clarenbridge made, he popped up and did. And again, like, in the Thomas' short is unbelievable, and I'm sure Henry Sheriff will be saying, I'll have to get this to turn the key for me on the county team.
There was a purpose behind everything. It wasn't just come around and puck away a ball, you know. There was always work done on what was the next goal, who was the next team, and I suppose you gain specific stuff then, kind of looking at what we'd be trying to do in games. And I suppose we've evolved recently. I think Niall said it to us last year, and he was absolutely right, but I think we've done that again. We're probably doing things now that we weren't overly comfortable doing in the past, and I think that really stood to us throughout the championship.
Yeah, your use of the ball is very good. The puck out, certainly there was a change, and then listen, enjoy the moment. Thanks for coming up to us, and There's an All-Ireland series as well, which you probably didn't think of, but that is the bonus this year as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Look, I suppose we didn't get a shot at it last year, but yeah, look, we'll be hoping to do ourselves justice in that, but we'll enjoy this first and think about that again.
Galway Bay there speaking to Conor Cooney after the game, and that was the commentary from Cyril and Sean during the game on Galway Bay as well. Tommy, when it comes to Henry Shefflin looking for a new hero now in the post-Joe Canning era, Conor Cooney is a player who he might not have available for a while at the start of the season, because understandably St Thomas are going to have a focus now in this upcoming AIB All-Ireland Club Hurling semi-final, but when he's back available, that's a guy you probably want to build a team around.
Oh, 100%. It feels like Conor Cooney's been there for so long because he broke through at such a young age, and he was such a, I suppose, force in that half forward line for so long. But yeah, a player to build it around. No Joe Canning, you're going to need someone like Conor Cooney to stand up and be the talisman, I suppose, in that Galway attack next year. And Henry, like I'd say, Henry can't wait to get his hands on him, but like he'd be happy enough if St Thomas is going a good run. And we don't know what side of the draw St Thomas have, do we? Do we know the side of they're obviously in the All Ireland Club semi-final. I don't know whether that draw has been made yet, do we? Do we know what side they're waiting on?
I think it is made, but I haven't checked.
I tried to figure it out. I couldn't figure it out earlier on. I was trying to see whether we could predict that, but yeah, Conor Cooney is definitely a man you could build a team around. 100%.
Yeah, they're going to be a very hard-beaten team. Two other results from last weekend then in the AIB Championships, and they were in the 2020 refixed Camogie Championships. In the Leinster Camogie final, Owler the Ballot winning their 7th title, beating Thomastown of Kilkenny by 1 goal and 11 points to 1 goal and 7. Mary Lacey remarkably to the forefront in that game just a few months after she had given birth. So there's no stopping Mary Lacey. Owler the Ballot through to this weekend's All-Ireland semi-finals. And in the Ulster Camogie final replay, our guest in a few moments' time, Tina Bradley, scored 1 goal and 6 points as Slaughtneil overcame Lochiel Shamrocks by 1 goal and 12 points to 8 points. That was an Ulster Camogie final replay. These competitions from 2020 were going into the semi-finals for this weekend. Now, as she was known at the time, Tina Hannon, now Tina Bradley, since her wedding, was also hugely important in the 2019 final when Slaughtneil won 3 All-Ireland titles in a row. Tina scored 6 points. Here are some of the highlights from what was a pretty snowy day at Croke Park.
Dangerous ball dropping in around the house. Darcy has to be alert, and the ball skidded away from her. She was just able to flick it away, and there's an opportunity maybe still accruing here now for the goal scorer Josie McMullen. Back out, Hannon stops it, getting towards Katie O'Connor. Hannon turning around the gap now a little bit, puts it on the end of hurl. She's got away from O'Connor, driving it in, and Tina Hannon has put it over the bar for an excellent score. Tina Hannon with this free though. Is she going to think about playing a short? No, Hannon goes for it, gives a full strike and drives it over the bar. Tina Hannon has gone on to her 6th point of the game.
That was Killian Whelan's commentary from that game, which was Naomh Martin up against Slaughtneil back in March of 2019. Delighted to say that Tina Bradley is with us now. Tina, how are you getting on?
Good morning, Will. How's it going?
Very well. That probably brings back great memories, thinking back about the final a couple of years ago.
I know, oh God, what a day it was, you know, when the snow started coming down. But, you know, once that final whistle was blown, it was really magical, you know, just standing in Croker and the sheet of snow. Now it was very, very, very cold. I'll never forget it for that reasons. But no, great day. And God, you know, when you think back 2019, and here we are now, nearly at the end of 2021, playing last year's competition. So look, we're delighted now to be back at it again. You know, there's no better feeling.
Probably delighted as well, Tina, this competition has actually taken place, because there was a bit of back and forth as to whether the 2020 championships would actually be played out. It looks like maybe they would fall, then they were brought back in. Like, it was probably very special to win a 5th Ulster title for your adopted club last weekend.
Yeah, oh God, it was a very, very tough game. Well, you know, having probably not played a game of that high standard for a long time, probably nerves probably got to us on the first day. It was a real tight contest and ended up being a draw. So then we took that week then just to kind of fine tune a few things, and we were delighted then that we got to defend our Ulster title, and you know, even more delighted that we are reigning Ulster champions again for a 5th year in a row. You know, it's probably something I'll never see again in my day anyway, you know, doing 5 in a row. It's special times, you know, creating history, creating great memories, and you just want the ball to keep rolling now, you know, keep the train going. And next weekend, well, I suppose this weekend now, we have the Wexford champions, the Leinster champions ahead of us. So It's great. You kind of, you don't mind playing so many weekends in a row, as long as you keep winning. Well, can't complain too much.
What a special club to find yourself into as well. Like when you made the move from Offaly up to Derry and got involved with Slaughtneil, like the club has just been on a remarkable run. Hurling, football, camogie. Chatting to Christy McCaig back in late 2019 when they were getting ready for their hurling semi-final. They're back involved in the Ulster hurling on Sunday afternoon too. And he was just saying that, like, almost kind of the one club model, and the fact that everyone is supporting each other across the various panels within the club has been hugely important for the success kind of 2015 until this year.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the heart of all the GAs, there's the families in the community, and it couldn't be more relevant up here. You look at Sunday, we play at 12 o'clock on Sunday, and there's 9 families involved in both the camogie and then the hurlings, and 4 o'clock up in Armagh. So there's a huge family involvement, and isn't that what GA is about? And I suppose there isn't huge competition here from other sports. It's just the hurling pitch up the road. So where else would you go when you're up to the pitch?
And Tina, Tommy, here, did it take you long to settle in and around the club, like when you transferred up and you moved up?
I moved up April 1st, 2017, and I suppose myself and Patsy were going out quite a while at that stage, and you'd often been up and met a lot of the girls, I suppose, be it at matches or maybe if you were in around the clubhouse or in around the bar. So it took me a while to understand the accent, Will, definitely. A lot of the time I didn't know what they were saying to me, but no, I went on then obviously to join the club. I was still playing with Offaly at the time, but that was a great way to get to know the girls, and they couldn't be more welcoming. And I suppose we had a couple of nights out in the dugout bar, and you don't be long getting to know everyone then when you're celebrating and having a few sociables. So no, everyone was extremely good to me. Patsy's family, all the in-laws, very, very good to me. So no, it was quite easy to settle. And because I was still playing with Offaly, I was down the road quite a bit as well. So it was a lovely mix. You got to see your family and your friends, and then back up here where it's just a second family, really.
Tina, I'm not going to lie, the accent has changed quite a bit here. Like back from
oh God!
When you were, I was going to say, when you were winning All Ireland junior and intermediate titles with Offaly, your accent was slightly closer to mine back around then. Two was nothing too far.
Once a bogger, always a bogger, Will.
Well, it might be more bog side than bogger now at this stage that you picked up since you went to Derry. But I guess that just shows part of the integration too. Like, did you know, because Tommy's asking you there about, like, when you go into Slaughtneil and settling in, did you have any idea when you first walk into the hurling club there and onto the pitch that this is potentially a very special group of players who will be going to Croke Park 4 years in a row?
Oh God, you don't even think like that, don't you not, Will? I had seen the girls play in their first All-Ireland final and semi-final. They played against Burgess Duhara. And they were so impressive that day in the All-Ireland semi-final, and then they went on to play Sarsfields in the final in Croker, and they're such a good team. I had no doubt that they were going to go on, but like, I suppose Patsy and a lot of people around the club would tell you that there was a lot of dark days where they got well beaten over the years, whether it be by Coleraine or like Swatcher over the years. So I suppose there was a lot of work put into the club, in terms of bringing on the youth. And I suppose I get to hear all the good stories about how, they work so hard, and then they're really reaping the rewards now. The team has changed quite a bit, Will, even from the time I joined in 2017, we've had a lot of young players come through. A few girls went away travelling, so it's definitely not the same team. So I think that really kind of highlights and shows how good our management team has been, our strength and conditioning team, our whole backroom team, that they've been able to integrate all these young players, and it's like they've been around forever. Well, my God, they're only 21, and you just think, God, they've been playing for the last 4 or 5 years, and they're just incredible.
And I would think that you're probably driven on as well, Tina, from that defeat against Sarsfields now a couple of years ago at this stage, but was still the 2020 All-Ireland Club final at the time, to try and get back now, get a win against Oulart the Bala in Ashburn this weekend, and try and get back up to Croke Park in the new year again.
Yeah, funny, I was listening to Brian Fenton talk about how they had been so successful, and how, he was talking about that one game that they lost to Mayo. that was the only competitive game I've ever lost with Slaughtneil to Sarsfields by a point, which is remarkable over the years. But it just creates a different type of hunger. We're just refocused again. It did give us a break with COVID and that, just to kind of probably re-energise, freshen up things a bit with new management structure. Mickey Lover's the only remaining part of the management from last year. Just to freshen up things, and look, the hunger is still there. We can't wait to get to Ashburn this weekend, and then back up to Armagh to support the hurlers. And then it's a quick turnaround, in 5-6 weeks' time, you play another Ulster. So you're back to square one. So you're only Ulster champions for a few weeks, and then you're back to defend your title then again. No, look, we were obviously devastated that time losing to Sarsfields. We felt like we underperformed that day. We felt like Sarsfields were very, very sharp on the day. So we would love the opportunity to get back to Croker. Well, I think actually it may be in Nolan Park this year, but we would love the chance to get back to an All-Ireland final. Definitely, and especially for me, probably at this stage of my career now, these matches are precious.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to put any kind of pressure on the age or anything, but like we were just chatting yesterday, and like you have a new arrival in the house now, and priorities maybe change a little bit away from sport as the years go on.
Yeah, he keeps me busy. My God, he I swear, running around after him would send the GPS through the roof, no matter our training. He keeps me busy. So yeah, priorities do change. At the same time, it is lovely getting out. It's lovely getting out of the house. It's nice getting down to still training, and Claire McGrath is also a mummy as well, and obviously Siobhan, who's part of our management team, is a mummy and expecting again. So it is, I suppose, you're not the only one doing it, and I have great support from my in-laws here. They're great to keep him, and Tony can be often seen in my pictures either in the gym or up at the pitch. So you just make it work, don't you? You kind of try and fit their schedule in around your own. So
is Patsy a good babysitter?
Babysitting? Oh, he's his daddy. That's he is. Yeah. It was such a big change for us. Obviously, you'd be just so focused on just going to work, going to gym, going up to the pitch, and suddenly you have this little person who's definitely the boss of the house. And we have an exciting Christmas now ahead. His first Christmas. But yeah, no. Look, it's great. It just makes the house a home, definitely.
Tina, it's frightening hearing you speak about a different type of hunger there, and those words from Brian Fenton. Definitely, I'm a Meath man here. This is Tommy. It definitely rattled me when I heard Fenton talking about that, how the Dubs are going to come back hungrier than ever. Just as Will mentioned there, the new arrival you have in the house. I know you're a director of a nursing home in Derry as well. You work in a nursing home too. How much of an outlet has sport been for you, especially in the last 2 months, or the last 2 years? Sorry, over the last little while. How much has it been, that kind of hunger, that kind of focus that you can get from playing sport?
Well, up here, I suppose, playing with the girls, we all have the same focus. Everyone is so determined, everyone is so committed. There's a huge ethos in the club, all based around community. So I suppose when you're going out with like-minded people, it makes it very, very easy to go up to the pitch. And we're quite fortunate, I suppose, having the hurlers on a good run. The footballers over the last few years have had a great run as well. So you've always been heading away somewhere at the weekend. You're always going to a match and meeting people, and it's such a great buzz in the club. And we have, I suppose, an excellent strength and conditioning coach as well. So I suppose when you're seeing the rewards and you're seeing, you're putting in the hard work, and then it's transferring onto the pitch as well. You can only enjoy it, and especially for me, I'm kind of at the latter end of my career, so I'm probably enjoying it more now than ever did. I don't feel as much pressure. You're just thinking, I suppose you don't know when your last game's going to be, so you're just enjoying it. But no, I love getting out. I love getting out doing a bit of running. I love getting to Ollie in the gym, and I love getting up to the pitch as well. So no, it's obviously turned very cold up here at the minute, but we'll not complain training at this time of year.
Yeah, it might be reminiscent of Croke Park in March 2019 by the time the game comes around at Ashburn at the weekend. Tina, thanks a million for joining us here on the Club Championship show with thanks to AIB here on OTB Sports.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Will. Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks a lot there to Tina Hannon. Let's have a look at the fixtures that are coming up in the IB Club Championships across this weekend. Tommy is going to be in action himself at the Connacht football semi-final. Pádraig Pearses and Mount Bellew at the weekend. We'll talk about that in a moment, but we've got the first of the All-Ireland Camogie semi-finals on Saturday. That's Drummond of Tipperary up against the reigning and defending All-Ireland champions, the Galway Queens Sarsfields. And you've got the first Leinster hurling semi-final, Clough-Ballacolla up against Kilmacud Crokes in Portlaoise on Saturday night. Busy day on Sunday across the three codes. We've got the second Leinster hurling semi-final, which is the reigning All-Ireland champions Ballyhale Shamrocks up against the first ever All-Ireland finalist St. Rynas. You've got the Munster hurling semi-finals, Kilmallock against Middleton, and also Ballygunner against Lockmore Castleiney. Both those games are on the TV on Sunday afternoon. Hurling very much taking prominence this coming weekend. Then elsewhere we've got the Ulster hurling semi-final, as Tina mentioned, Slaughtneil in action against Dunloy. Slaughtneil, the defending champions in that competition. And we've got the second All-Ireland Camogie semi-final, a noon start for this one in Ashburn on Sunday, when we're going to have Slaughtneil up against the new Leinster champions Owlert the Balla. So all that to look forward to. Tommy, you looking forward to getting a look at Pádraig Pearses, who lost out to Corofin in the last Connacht final which was played, and Mount Bellew, the team have taken over from them in Galway?
Yeah, 100% will. Mount Bellew are definitely a team that I'm keen to get an eye on. Haven't seen them. Keen to get an eye on. I haven't seen them live in action in a while. I've seen them on the TV over the last couple of years. Like, they ran Corofin so close for a couple of years. Then they bet them last year. Obviously there was no provincials, and then this year they won against Ballinamoor. They were in a bit of danger, and Michael Daly stood up and he kicked 4 brilliant scores. Pádraig Pearses are definitely a team that I'd be interested in seeing this weekend. They've got the 3 Daly brothers involved. I would have seen a couple of their county finals back when they lost to Bridget's in 1 or 2 of them a couple of years ago. So Pádraig Pearses have been knocking on the door in Roscommon. They've won a couple of championships, and they've been knocking on the door for a good while now with a really strong group. So they'll be eyeing Mount Bellew to take them down. While Mount Bellew, I'd imagine, after competing so well against the standard setters in club football over the last, say, 5-6 years, Corofin, I'm sure Mount Bellew are looking beyond a Connacht this year. Not that that's an easy thing to do,
There you go. Tommy Rooney providing all the ammunition that's needed for both Pádraig Pearses and for Knockmore over the next few weeks, as Knockmore waiting in that Connacht final after their win against Tour de Strand in the weekend just gone by. You have been listening and watching the Club Championship on OTB Sports. It is brought to you by AIB. We'll be back next Wednesday from 10:30.
The Club Championship Show on OTB Sports in partnership with AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. #the toughest.